So I have to admit, I never played the original version of Xenoblade Chronicles X. It was another game that I always had on my mind, but I never had a Wii U, so I was never able to actually play it for years. And since I had gone through most of the Xeno games, including stuff like Xenogears, the Xenosaga trilogy, and of course Xenoblade 1 through 3, I really wanted to be able to try out X. They're all great games, so naturally, I felt like I was missing out by not being able to experience Xenoblade Chronicles X. Call me surprised when this game finally gets announced with a definitive edition on the Switch. Bro, I was stoked to play this game since I only ever heard good things of it, but oh boy. There's a lot more to say than just that, so let's get into it, shall we? Xenoblade Chronicles X tells a story of humanity's struggle after the Earth was destroyed in an intergalactic war, with survivors fleeing in interstellar arcs, with one of them, the White Whale, crashing onto the planet Mira. In the game, you actually get an avatar that you actually get to customize and make as your own. The player character joins a group called Blade, who's dedicated to ensuring humanity's survival as you uncover the secrets of Mira while fighting the Ganglion, which is a group of aliens who view humans as a threat. If you played any of the Xenoblade games before, you'll kinda know what to expect with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. It's an open world action RPG. The world of Mira in Xenoblade Chronicles X feels absolutely massive, with lots of places to explore with tons of stuff to do. It's not hard to expect to sink a lot of time into this game, so if you're someone who likes quantity in their games, then this one is probably perfect for you because, oh man, it's a lot. At the time of writing, I had been playing Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for about 60 hours, and during this time, I had slowly come to the realization that either I suck at video games or Xenoblade Chronicles X is just insanely difficult. Like, for real. It's been a while since I've seen a game with a learning curve this brutal in a long time. No amount of the game's 10 billion tutorial pop-ups can prepare you for the onslaught that you're getting yourself into when playing this game. Seriously, you could find yourself running around minding your own business and then BAM! Dead. It sucked having to deal with this kind of thing, and it really feels like climbing a tall mountain trying to get used to it. Not just that, some of the fights throughout the story are absolutely crazy. I found myself dying over and over again until the game pitied me by asking if I wanted to lower the difficulty. It got to the point where eventually I found myself looking up guides to level just so I could stand a chance against enemies in the story. Something I don't really like doing at all, but felt forced to because it was like bashing my head against a wall repeatedly. It's brutal unless you decide that you're going to be patient and make sure to level up. But on that, and what I can really say here is that Xenoblade Chronicles X consists of some of the most hardcore grinding that I've seen outside of an MMO. I swear I spent hours killing bugs in order to max out my classes until I was starting to lose my mind. This sort of helped for a while, that is until I made it to chapter 12 where, oh my god, I got absolutely destroyed.
This is merely a taste of the feature's potential.
Damn it. Timer!
Unless you've played the game before or you looked up a guide and had an idea of what's in store, there's really nothing that properly prepares you for this big dude. And then when you finally think you've won, nah. Here's some ads for you. Yeah, I got brutalized here to the point where I was afraid I got stuck since I couldn't kill any of this. Fortunately, my game was saved before entering here, so I did the logical thing and went back to grinding. Nothing else I could do but go back and endure it. So after spending a little over 6 hours looking up guides for optimization, grinding money, and some weapons for my skills, I was finally ready to try the fight again. I have to say, maybe I was a bit overprepared this time because I freaking destroyed this first dude and even the ads after. But then there was a new fight that I had to deal with. But what I will say is that this one wasn't too bad for me, at least. Mostly thanks to all the preparation. But even though it was satisfying to finally climb over that wall, I feel like this level of hardcore grinding was completely unnecessary. I don't mind some challenge, but when it feels like I'm hitting constant roadblocks, I have to ask, what kind of sadist designed this game? Like, honestly, those random death trap enemies that snap at you while you're running around aren't even what's half bad. Some of the required levels for these quests feel like blatant lies too. You see something that has like a low required level and then all the enemies in the area are like double or even triple that. It's oddly aggravating, but what what can you do? So anyways, after you beat chapter 12, you get a credit roll. But in the definitive edition, there's a new chapter that's added. Before I continued on with the story, I have to admit, I learned my lesson from not bothering to gear up and took the time to complete all of the affinity missions. At this point, I was sitting around 80 hours of playtime. By modern standards, I'd say this is a lot. It isn't a bad thing, but man, when it feels like 1/4 of that is spent grinding, you start to feel fatigue setting in. But anyways, with the end of the original Xenoblade Chronicles X story, we're left with the whole group wondering how they're all still alive with a cliffhanger. The definitive edition of the game tries to tie things up here and provide closure with the newly added chapter 13, something that's split up into 3 acts, each of them being pretty lengthy compared to chapters 1 through 12, which were all relatively short. This is where we witness dematerialization happening across Mira, and we're introduced to these ghost dudes and this baddie named Void. It's all crazy, and we learn about some alternate universes and other things. It all leads up to this grand finale where you're fighting Void before we close the game out with like a 20-minute cutscene. Well worth it. But honestly, chapter 13 wasn't too bad, though by the time I was done with the game, I had racked up around 90 hours. The thing here is that I could have probably easily dropped way over 100 farming stuff like the Ares 90, but I was honestly tired of grinding and just wanted to finish the game. So what's there to say outside of the story stuff? Well, there's also a ton of side quests to do. These are things for money and abilities and whatnot. They're extremely vital, and I highly recommend doing them as soon as you can, because some of the abilities you unlock from stuff like the affinity missions make the game feel that much easier. And really, some of them are kind of interesting too. I think the most notable ones that I saw were ones that involved a bomber lobster, though it was unfortunately a mass collectathon, and this dude who was trying to get back to the future. It's a little bizarre, but kind of an interesting way to pad the game a bit, I guess. I also found the second Affinity mission for Al to be a little silly too, since that one ends with a pizza party, which is a little random. What I'll also add is that the world of Mira is freaking massive. It's gigantic and really feels stunning when you break it down. It's really impressive that Monolith Soft put so much effort into designing such an interesting world with tons of enemies and stuff to fight. I'm not entirely sure if I was sold on things like the probes, which was stuff that you could plant to mine resources and get items and money and what have you. Maybe it's because I've been playing too many open world games recently that this sort of thing feels like it's getting stale, but I really wish that I didn't have to do this since some of the points were kind of annoying to find. Really though, it gets a lot easier when you finally have the mech, but unfortunately, you have to play through like half the game to even get one and then progress even further to unlock flight. It sucks, but in the end, it's incredibly worth it. Things like the combat are alright too. If you played any of the Xenoblade games, then you'll know what to expect. It's similar enough as an action-based RPG. You have stuff like Overdrive that allows you to unleash massive damage to enemies and basically rough them up. One thing I'll say is that it feels like you have to rely on certain abilities and gear to not get stomped. I was kind of just playing the game casually until I got towards the end when stuff stopped messing around. Dude, I kid you not, I was getting absolutely obliterated at certain points. It's not even a skill issue thing as much as it's a gear and setup issue. However, when you take the time to grind out the classes and level up, it definitely helps. And when you build up your characters in certain ways, the game can feel far easier. This applies to gearing the mechs as well. I grinded out stuff like the Buster and Phoenix weapons, and this pretty much helped me get through the game, albeit with a few bumps. That being said, this game has moments where it feels like one of the hardest games that I've ever played. I think that there really isn't too much to complain about in the game. Playing Xenoblade Chronicles X was bittersweet after so many years of coveting it. Unfortunately, I can't say that I like the game as much as the other Xenoblade games. There were some things that started to get under my skin after a while too. For example, the music in town was absolutely driving me crazy with the yeah, yeah, I played this game on stream and I kept hearing people complain non-stop to the point where I had to lower it to save the sanity of both myself and what viewers were able to tolerate it enough to not dip immediately. Also, oh man, some of this voice acting.
You saved us, yes? Thank goodness! We saw you take care of those turrets, you know? We owe you one! Big time, okay?
It pierces my brain and makes me want to drill into my eardrums with screwdrivers. Luckily, you don't have to hear these dudes too often, but damn, son. Anyways, that's really all I had to say about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. It's a solid game, and I'm glad that I was finally able to play it for myself. I don't know if I could say that I like it more than Xenoblade 1 through 3, but it has some stuff that I like. I think the world design is great, and I did enjoy a lot of the Affinity missions and the side quests in general. The story was alright. I don't know if it was like the best thing ever, but I don't think it was awful either. I don't think it's fair for me to complain too much about the open world stuff, even though I've been finding a lot of this repetition type content to be dreadful recently. Had I played the original Xenoblade Chronicles X back in 2015, I would have absolutely loved this kind of thing since I wasn't as exposed to it as I am now, so I'm giving it a pass. It's whatever. Either way, I'm glad to finally be able to play the game. It was nice to finally see it for myself, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Monolith Soft comes up with next. Thank you all for watching. So what did you think of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition? Did you play the original or the remaster, and did you like it? Let me know in the comments below and I'll check them out. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. We'll be back with more soon enough, so stay tuned. Until next time, peace out.